Hi everybody. So this is the video for section E. It's going to very briefly go through mean, median, and mode, and then it's going to get into some of the more complicated questions that you'll see in this section. So mean, median, and mode are three different ways of measuring the center of the data. So it's looking to reduce the data set down to a single value that can sort of represent the data set. There are advantages and disadvantages to the three of them. There are times when one would make more sense over the others. Every situation is going to be a little bit different. So the mean is the one that you're probably already familiar with. It is the average, the mathematical average. And so it's a calculation where you take the sum of all the data values. Remember, sum meaning addition. So add up all the data values that you have, divide by the number of data values that there are. So that will give you a number that is not necessarily part of the data set, but it is a number that will give you a mathematical average. The more mathy way of writing it, mean is represented as x with a bar over top of it. This is the Greek letter sigma, which stands for sum of, and then all of the x's represent all of the different data values, divided by n, which stands for the number of data points in the set. So that's mean. Pretty standard calculation. Add it, divide by the number you have. Median is another way that we can measure the center of the data. So the median represents the exact middle number in the set. Now that's a little bit of a misnomer because the median is not necessarily always in the data set. But to find the median, you line up all the data points that you have in order and you figure out which one is in the middle. If you have an even number of data points, you will not have one that is in the middle. You will have two that are in the middle, and then you will need to do the average of those two. If you have a large data set, sometimes this little formula is helpful to figure out which number is going to be your median. So n plus 1 divided by 2. So if there are 20 data points in the set, you would do 20 plus 1 divided by 2 to find out, excuse me, 10.5. And then in between the 10 and the 11th data point, that would be your median. So this doesn't calculate the median. It tells you which value in your data set is going to be your median. And the last method for calculating the center is with mode. You're already familiar with mode. We've come across it as a vocabulary word already. It's the most commonly occurring value. So it's the number that is in that data set the most. Sometimes you will have one mode. Sometimes you will have two modes, in which case you would refer to that set of data as bimodal. If there are two values that appear the same amount of times more than others. Beyond 2, we say there's no mode. Or if every data point is there a single time, we say that there's no mode. So usually you'll have no mode, one mode, or two modes. Beyond 2, that sort of statistic is no longer really helpful. Okay, so let's get into a couple more complicated questions that you'll see. So this first one we're going to look at is find x if 10, 7, 3, 6, and x have a mean of 8. So in this kind of question, you're kind of going about it in reverse. You're not being asked to find the mean, you're being given the mean, and you've got to go back and figure out what this missing value is in the set. So if we think back to how do we find mean, we add up all the data values, we divide by the number of data values we have. So if we're going to do x bar is equal to the sum over the number that we have, then we would do, oh, actually I can insert the mean because I know it. 8 is equal to 10 plus 7 plus 3 plus 6 plus x divided by 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And then all of a sudden we're into a bit of a solving equations sort of scenario where we have to figure out what x is. So first thing I'm going to do here is I'm going to add up all of these values. 10 plus 7 gives me 17. 3 more gives me 20. So I've got 26 plus x divided by 5. And then the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to multiply both sides by 5. So now I have 40 is equal to 26 plus x. And then I'm going to subtract 26 from both sides. And I end up with 14 is equal to x. So 14 is the missing value that was in this data set. So this is just kind of a mean in reverse kind of question. So we're going backwards, trying to figure out what the missing value was that was in that data set. Okay, so the other kind of question that I want to go through is what happens if you have a large number of values. So I've set up this table. So imagining that we generated some data, and in the data we have one value of 3. We have 2 values of 4. We have 4 values that were 5. We have 14 6s, 11 7s, 6 8s, and 2 9s. So we had this large number of data points, and we've just sort of consolidated it into a table to make it a little bit easier to kind of make sense of. So we're going to talk about how do you find the mean, median, and mode from table data. So to find the mean, again, if we think back, x bar is equal to the sum of all the x's divided by the number of x's we have. So I'm not just adding up these though, because in my data set there would be 1 3. So I would have like a 3. There would be 2 4s, so I would have a 4 and a 4. There would be 4 5s, so I would have a 5, 5, 5, 5, and so on. So there's a bit of a shortcut here. Instead of just sort of using the data and adding them all up like that, we can multiply how many times did we have that data point and figure out a product. And then we can just add up all of those products instead. So if I had 1 3, that gives me a product of 3. If I have 2 4s, that gives me a product of 8. If I had 4 5s, that gives me a product of 20. If I had 14 6s, that gives me 84, and that gives me 77, and that gives me 48, and that gives me 18. And then if I add all those up, I get 258. So then the sum of all of my means here is going to be 258 divided by, and then the frequencies, all of these added up, give me 40. So that would have given me 40 different data points if I had listed them all the way out. And this tells me what all of those data points added together give me. 2 4s gives me 8. 4 5s gives me 20. And so this ends up being my sum, and this ends up being my number of data points. So then I've got 258 divided by 40. If I grab a calculator, that's going to give me 6.45. So that's how you find the mean from table data. Median. So median, remember, we're going to do n plus 1 divided by 2 to figure out which value the median is going to be. So I have 40 data points, so I'm going to do 40 plus 1 divided by 2, so that's 41 divided by 2, so that gives me 20.5. So in between the 20th value and the 21st value, the average of those two is going to be my median. So if I go back up to here, by the end of this set of values, I'm at 1, because I only have 1 3. At the end of this, I'm going to add 2 more to that. So there, by the end of 1 and 2, I have 3 points. Add 4 more here, and now I'm at 7. So if you see here, after the 3, I'm at 1 point. 2 more, now I'm at 3. 4 more, now I'm at 7. So that's the 7th value. I'm up to 7 values. And then if I add 14 more, that's going to get me up to 21. So if I want to know in between the 20th and the 21st value, so that means value number 21 is a 6, value number 20 is a 6. So if the 20th value is a 6 and the 21st value is a 6, I need to find the average of those, but they're the same number. So the average of them is going to be 6. So my median is 6, mean 6.45. And last but not least is the mode. So which one of those numbers is there the most? So if I go back up here to my frequencies, that's there 1 time, 2 times, 4 times, 14 times. So this number appears more than any other number. So the mode here is going to be 6. All right, that about does it.